So the Reyes Cup completed last night. Fantastic finish. You know, I know your mind's always turning on how things are going and looking around the room and how to improve, how to make things better. What was your overall impression of the event first time go?
I think, first of all, on the record, we've had about 3 hours sleep.
So, about 2.5 more than me.
Yeah. So if I'm a little bit slow on my responses, it is purely that. Obviously, it was a great event. Standing in that arena last night, finishing on a Friday, I think it was, great that we were kind of finishing on the Friday. It's a shame we weren't going into the weekend, obviously, but the score was still like the comeback was coming on, which was incredible to see. Team Europe, like Jason, winning those back-to-back matches, and even like David Al-Kaidi winning his game was great, because there was, a lot of hate online because of like David coming in and things like that. And I love to see him win that match, just to kind of, get that point on the scoreboard. But all in all, I think Kachi asked me last night, actually, he said, Emily, to you, what's a good event? And I was like, well, what do you mean? And he was like, well, what's a good event for you?
What makes it a success?
Yeah. And I said, well, that's a good question. I was like, no one's really asked me that before, because we've always had a good event. And he was like, so you've never had a bad event? I said, no. He was like, really? Like, even like the score? And I was like, no, because there's always something good that comes from it. And that no matter what happens, like, even if Europe had won last night, it still would have been a great event. Even if it was 11-0, it still would have been a great event. Every outcome that we get, it's always a successful event, because the players enjoy themselves, the fans enjoy themselves. They're not sitting there snoozing, and everyone didn't leave.
Right.
Everyone stayed there for the final 9-ball, and the right winners won. So I think all in all, it was an incredible event. Yes, there is so much to work on, so much to improve on. That I've already started making notes down, like sort of this morning.
What are some of those notes?
It's obviously things are quite last minute, and I'd love to finish on a weekend, for example. As with any event, you never want to kind of be running like a Tuesday to a Friday, but we've got the Mosconi Cup this year, which is starting on a Saturday, and that's going to be slightly different. We're going Saturday, Sunday through to Tuesday. And it all comes with different things coming to the calendar. We didn't want to go over Thanksgiving, because I know I've been killed for that before.
2019 was,
yeah. So, things like the dates. I'd like to give my team some rest after the Hanoi Open, going into the Reyes Cup next year. And, things, there's so much that we can do, but I think that no matter what, that arena looked unreal. I think the setup, the staging, I think this LED set, how the players were and where they were sat, I think all of that looked spectacular, especially for a year one of the event. Lots to improve on. We'd like to be able to have alcohol in there and things like that for our European fans.
Crowds were good, even in the early days.
Yeah.
They were a little hard to see sometimes, so the angles kind of made it look less full than it was, but it didn't seem like they really found their voice or their throat until last night. And so that's something that you build on as well. I mean, they've got a little bit of an idea now of what involvement feels like.
Yeah, and I think I went into this very much like this has got to be the Mosconi Cup for Asia. And then as each day happened, and especially going into the last day, I was very much like, oh no, this is its own event. This isn't the Mosconi Cup. It might follow the same format, but it's completely different. The Vietnamese fans in Hanoi were very different to the Mosconi Cup fans. Like, it is a more respectful audience here, which I actually really love. There were times where the European fans were actually like a little bit sharky on some of the Asian players' shots. And I only heard that because I was where I was sat. And I actually really didn't like it. And I'm sorry, European fans, but I think because I've spent so much time in Vietnam, coming into the Philippines, it is a more respectful audience. London is going to be completely different. But that's what I like about these events. Every event has its own identity.
Yeah.
And I don't want the Reyes Cup to be the Mosconi. It's a different audience. It is a different vibe. It's a different atmosphere. And yeah, it took a couple of days for them to find their voice. And I think maybe Team Asia really felt the pressure last night,
Right.
because the fans were engaged and it felt warmer in there. There were more people in there. There were over 1,500 people in that arena. But now Team Asia have had a little bit of the taste for that. And when they tune in to watch the Mosconi this year, they'll be already thinking about the Reyes Cup ahead of the next. So we're not trying to copy the Mosconi. I think Reyes needs to find its own identity.
And what does the Reyes Cup mean for Asia, for this part of the world?
It's their own invitational now that they can work towards. Every player last night who was watching, and that is an American player. We all know Federer was straight on social media saying, Europe are going to lose twice this year. The USA players, the European players, who all would have been watching that last night saying, I wish I was there.
Yeah.
I could have won that point and we could have beat Asia, because the European team want to beat Asia. And then every Asian player who sat there, they go, finally, it's not just a World Cup pool, the Masters, Premier League pool, those invitational events. They finally have something that is so prestigious in a team environment that they can look forward to. Alyosha Yap, I said to him on day one, we were coming, obviously their spirits were a lot higher because they were in the lead. But I said, is this like what you imagined? He was like, no, it's even bigger.
Yeah.
And, that's going to spark that talk amongst the other players. And that came through the television last night and the last couple of days, and on social media. Everyone has seen how big this event is. And every Asian player will be looking at this going, how do I qualify next year? And you already look at it and you go, wow, how is this even going to, pan out?
So you talk about it gaining its own identity. Do you foresee, at least for the near future, this staying in Asia?
I don't see why not. It works in Manila. I think that it needs to find its own identity. Moving it around won't help with that. The Mosconi Cup found its identity and it now suits really well. You go between the UK and America, and that suits wonderfully. The European fans have something to look forward to, and the same with America. I think the most important thing right now is to promote the Reyes Cup and to market that and to bring it into its own. And staying here in the Philippines seems like the right move.
This will be in Manila for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
As a format goes, the original idea was winner of Mosconi Cup plays Team Asia. Obviously, with Team Europe winning so often, is that really to the benefit of this event, or would it benefit from, at least at the beginning, some alternating years of an American team coming to Asia one year and a European coming to Asia in the next year? As long as you're not doing a back and forth anyways, is that something you've thought through?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the original thought process with it being the Mosconi winners, to be real with you, it was just to try and motivate Team America more, for them to actually try harder at the Mosconi Cup. But I think that they're already motivated, that we don't actually need to do that. I prefer, personally, it alternating. I think it gives more opportunity to more players. We've seen a few more American younger players, like Sam Henderson, Landon, coming to Hanoi to try and get their ranking points, because they've got like a Mosconi Cup to look forward to. So why not give them like a Reyes Cup to also see in their sightlines? So for us with the World 9-Ball Tour, it's about promoting opportunity for all the players around the world.
Right.
And so alternating that is a great way of doing that. But again, we don't rush into anything. We're just I think we see how the next couple of months play out, see what happens. I saw a lot of American fans the last couple of days.
US and Philippines is more of a natural connection than Europe and the Philippines. I mean, there's such a US presence here, always has been militarily and things like that. So I think, Filipino pool fans would love to see American team over here at some point or another. So
Get the rivalry going
yeah.
between everyone.
Yeah. Captains.
Yeah.
This year, Efren ceremonial captain. I was obviously Johan Chua was doing a lot of the string pulling. But what do you see going forward as it becomes more of a real competition? Playing captains, traditional captains. What are your thoughts at this point?
Not really sure, to be honest. I haven't thought that far ahead, to be totally real with you. I think Efren did a great job, and having
I was
him,
glad that they won because I did not want to see Efren Reyes get a silver medal in his first event with his name on it.
Yeah, of course. But I think, he did a great job, and having him a part of the event where he wasn't, if he wasn't playing, having him a part of it in some way of as
he's
captain.
Such a draw.
Yeah, and he was out there, he might have had a nap every so often on the sofa, but he was out there every game, and, he was involved in it.
He was far more engaged than I would have anticipated.
Yeah, and I think I
think he was nervous at certain times. He was, he really enjoyed it.
Yeah, and it was great to see. But I think on the captain side of things, in the last year, I've been thinking a lot more about captains and like playing captains, and I just feel that the players are so important that you'd always rather give the players the opportunity to earn more or to have more of an involvement, because again, they're the ones out there making the shots. Johan Chua was out there with his team, and he was making those decisions. And with no disrespect to Carl, right, you kind of saw Johan and Jason a lot more engagement with the team and the lineups.
Right.
Jason and Mickey, I know that had like a few words about, who was out there and who was playing and stuff like that. So you naturally saw Johan and Jason having more of an involvement.
Leadership roles, yeah.
And I'd always rather them, take that responsibility.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. But even talking to Carl last night, he said that it's a very stressful job. And,
yeah, of
course. I wonder at some point if it becomes too stressful for a player to be both in the same event. But I think you find out by doing it, right?
Yeah, well, I think that's the beauty of our events. We can kind of do what we want. We've got, it's a commercial tour. And let's see how Jason and Skylar get on this year at the Mosconi Cup. If it works, then brilliant. They've earned themselves a couple of extra quid. Yeah. And, they're the ones making the decisions out there. And if it doesn't work, then we go back to plan B. See what happens.
Let's go back to Asia. It's such a fertile area these days. I mean, you look at Vietnam and you hear talk about, the explosion in Indonesia with pool and growth and just meteoric growth. And the Philippines, so happy to get events back in the Philippines. Is this on your agenda as far as adding events to this area, whether they're invitational or open events?
Yeah, I think obviously it's a world tour, and what we won't do is keep our eye off the ball globally, because we still got big plans for Europe. We got more plans for the US, and now it's obviously Southeast Asia. So, if there's demand for somewhere, then we go into that market, absolutely. It's just a case of when's right in the calendar.
Right. Is this something that you can turn into a regionally global type of tour where you're in Asia for a certain amount of time, you're in the US for a certain amount of time, as opposed to crisscrossing the globe?
Yeah.
Is that something that's logistically possible?
Well, we're looking into our calendar, being quite late with publishing our calendar for next year, purely because we're just trying to be strategic in how the players travel.
Yeah.
There's so many challenges with the calendar. Obviously, I never want to clash with darts and snooker. I think that's, I know everyone's so buried into the pool world, but it's our job at the end of the day to make it mainstream and clashing with sports like that doesn't help us.
Right.
There's such a, a big audience that crosses over. Then you have to think about Sky. This week we were on Sky Sports Mix, which wasn't ideal. We tried to push for main event and things like that, and that all comes down to what sits in their calendar. So right now we're just trying to figure out how the calendar looks for next year, trying to bring the events into so it works with the other ranking events and things like that. And so we're really trying to make it better for the players. We're not going to get it perfect next year, I already know that. But it's a case of trying to streamline all of our ranking events. Right. Everyone's adhering to the same rules, regulations. No one's messing with the prize money. After a player signs up, no matter how many people enter, that's what they're getting paid. They're playing the World 9-Ball Tour rules, and it's a lot more official. Our job is the players, and we have to promote this tour and we have to protect them, and they're trusting us when they turn up to these ranking events. So it's all about us putting all of that together and doing it carefully, sort of thing. So we've got lots of plans for the different areas.
Will we see the World Cup of Pool in 2025?
Yes, you will. You will see the World Cup of Pool.
What happened in 2024?
It's just, look, it's always I say it all the time, like we never rush into anything. If we've got a plan in the making and we feel that the best plan for the players and the best plan for the tour is to make a decision where that event will take place in 2025 in a different location, then we do that. We don't rush it to just get an event out and then it's a bad event. Right. Every event we do is successful and it's brilliant. So we plan everything, and look, when the news comes out for our World Cup of Pool plans, everyone will just forget that it never happened in 2024. It will be that good news. So Don't worry, it's coming.
WPA announcements, player bans, lists of players, all this kind of stuff. I think we've talked about this before, and I think mentally you kind of have WPA in your rearview mirror at this point and looking forward. At the same time, there are a lot of players out there that I know you feel for who are trapped.
Yeah.
And so how do you charge ahead, but also find ways to protect and nurture those players?
I think the best thing that I can do for the players is to do what I've been doing recently, and that is literally just full steam ahead. Because I think for a little while now, we tried so long to let's try and do this, let's try and do that for the player. Everything that we were doing was for the players. Mm-hmm. Every conversation with the WPA, every Zoom call with the WPA, every conversation, every email was all for the players. And it's now at a point where the best thing for the players is to go full steam ahead on what we're doing. Listen, they can all do whatever they want to do. We don't mind that, and if the players are going to go and play in another event and pick up a load of money and that's their expenses to come to the proper tour, the commercial tour, great. Then, so be it, sort of thing. But for us, and I know deep down in my heart, the best thing for me to do right now is to not listen, keep focused, stay with the tour, and to not steer off that tour. And all I would say with the players is that right now it seems really scary because an entity is attacking, essentially, and they've got us to come and lean on, to come and talk to. We help them. We help guide them through this, and we're not going anywhere. We're not going to shut up shop and go, listen, you're all banned now and see you later. We're going into another sport. We're here. We're committed. We're invested. We've just pulled off a brand new invitational event that offers opportunity for another region of the world. We've got lots of plans in for next year for more open tournaments. I know players are asking for more prize money, things like that. And I'm trying to explain to them, guys, come on now. We've only got, just like a dozen Matchroom pool events. So let's focus on more events. Let's focus on building the calendar. And the players just need to trust us, because I'm okay with being like the bad guy for a couple of months in some people's eyes. because I know the long
All the
goal.
time.
I know in the future everyone will go, oh, okay, I get it now. Because I know I've been behind the scenes. Me and my team know the truth, know the real stuff behind the scenes, and we know the right thing to do is what we are doing now. And so the best thing I can do for the players is to keep going, full steam ahead. And listen, if you're on board, you're great, you're on board. Come part of our family, and you're in a family. We protect you. And if you don't, that's cool. You go your own way. There's no hard feelings our side. But, you know, it's happening now.
Yeah.
There's no fairy tale ending. You know, it's the real world.
Speaking of no fairy tale ending and players making commitments and things like that, talk about the Team Europe Mosconi Cup lineup. Josh obviously was withdrawn, which was a very interesting term from this event. You know, what can you or do you want to share about that? And two, what you know, how close are we to knowing if Josh Filler is going to be in Orlando?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think obviously this week we've just been so buried deep into the Reyes Cup and making sure that event is successful. Dick, we've done that. And I think the next moves now is just to get back home and speak with Joshua. Like I said, when Melina come and sabotage me at the Hanway Open, he's still not forgiven for. We haven't had an opportunity to sit down and chat with Joshua, and I think that's the right thing. So, as I said before, as it stands, nothing's changed for the Mosconi, and it's just a case of we just, you know, sit down and speak with Joshua. But we've just been focused on the Reyes Cup this week.
Yeah,
and that was the number one priority.
Is the main issue commitment to WNT events, or is the issue, what is the issue?
I'm not going to talk about what the issue is.
I had to roll that one out.
I know.
It's an obligation. So Mosconi Cup, regardless of who's playing, moving from Las Vegas to Orlando, new setup. It's always a little bit tricky when you get into a new arena, a new city, a new town. You know, expectations always high. Ticket sales are through the roof.
Yeah, I'm a little bit nervous about the Mosconi, only because it's so, like, Shane's now, because obviously with the Hall of Fame stuff,
I got his email yesterday.
He's literally just like, I need this many tickets, and me and Phoebe are like, oh my God, like, how are we going to be able to cater for this? Because, like, we genuinely don't have any seats left, like, from, like, the Matchroom standpoint. Right. Whatever is on sale and whatever is there, that is it. Like, one of the European fans come up to me yesterday and was like, look, I couldn't get a ticket and it's gone on a resale and things like that. And I'm like, you know, this is the nature. I can't only imagine, like, how much a Taylor Swift.
Could you not add any seats? Was
no,
arena?
There's like height of the arena, and
so
you know,
you
the
maxed
tiered
out on what you can do in there.
Listen, if the fans are happy to all sit on the floor in chaired seats like the boxing, then I can get like 8,000 people in there. But there needs to be
I think they would at this point.
To be
the
fair,
people looking for tickets, I think they would sit on the floor with their legs crossed.
There's a point where we're going to have to make that transition into like how the darts or the boxing do it with big screens, and it's going to be like a Marmite moment. It's either going to be a really great decision or an awful decision of mine when we switch into that arena where to try and get over 5,000 people in, because everyone's so used to the sitting over the top of the pool table. But, you know, that's something that we have to work on. But Mosconi is going to be something spectacular. I think the arena setup will be really cool. We've obviously got lots of plans in the making at Carib, and it's going to be a really lovely resort. Honestly, like, I keep saying how lovely the resort is. Like, the rooms are wonderful. I think you're like 15 minutes from Disneyland. So whatever players are going to be there, they're going to be on a roller coaster. And I'm sure we'll be doing a little feature with them. It will be our biggest audience, our biggest ever live audience.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
When will we know about 2025? What is your idea on when a calendar might drop?
Hoping next month, just because, you know, a lot of the players are yearning for that calendar. So next month, hopefully, we'll be able to drop that. But what we will do is the players will be notified of the calendar before it goes public anywhere. so then they can start their planning and things like that. So lots of stuff in the making.
There always is, which always makes it entertaining and
Yeah.
interesting and exciting. So thanks very much for your time.
Thank you, Mike.